LSU versus Clemson is the second biggest game of week 1 this year behind Texas and Ohio State. Both teams have high expectations for this year. Clemson, for the last few seasons, it felt like their best days under Dabo Swinney were behind them, but they get to the playoffs. They have a hard-fought loss against Texas, and they return a lot of talent from last year's playoff squad into this season. You got Cade Klubnik, who is one of the best returning quarterbacks in college football this year. You have a loaded defense with the best defensive line in all of college football. And Clemson is just not going into this game playing to prove that they are as good as what they've been hyped up to be this offseason, but they are also fighting for the honor of the ACC, because the SEC is pushing their weight around with how they're going about their demands for the expanded playoffs. They want more AQs than everybody else outside of the Big Ten. And if the ACC is able to get Clemson to knock off LSU early, then it will show a strong precedent that there are teams in this conference that are good enough to compete with the SEC, and you just can't anoint teams based off their conference affiliation. Meanwhile, for LSU, this is a gotta-have-it game for them. Brian Kelly has yet to win a Week 1 game as the head coach of this program, and with the amount of money that they poured into this year's squad and the portal, you got a lot of good players on defense. You got guys like Nick Anderson, Barry Brown on offense. You also return a good amount of production with Garrett Nussmeier coming back. He should take a big step his second season as the starter. Expectations are sky high for LSU football this year. You know how the old saying goes when it comes to expectations. Expectations, they're a killer. And the hot seat for Brian Kelly is heating up. And we are going to find out just how good this LSU team is by the end of their first 5 games, because they have a really tough schedule this year. They only have 2 games against some random scrubs, and outside of that, every game is a losable one for LSU to start this season, which is why this is a game that they have to win. And if LSU is able to win this game, then not only does it help them start the season out strongly, but it also further shows that they are a team that should be taken seriously as far as not just being a playoff team, but possibly competing for the national championship, because this is their most talented roster that they've had on paper since 2019. And Clemson is primarily a young team. A lot of their best players last year were underclassmen, and they come back and they still have a lot of their top players being underclassmen. They got 2 very good receivers, and Trayvon Wesco and TJ Moore. So this LSU new look secondary, they're going to get tested this year in a major way by this Clemson passing attack. I think that Clemson has the advantage when it comes to the line of scrimmage battle. Their offensive line returns more starters than what LSU does. And with them having the best defensive line in college football, going up against an offensive line in LSU that's returning a lot of good offensive linemen or losing a lot of good offensive linemen from last year, like Will Campbell and company, this should be a game that Clemson should win, with them having the home field advantage and the slight talent advantage over LSU as well. They also have one of the best coaching staffs in America. One of the biggest surprises of this offseason was when Dabo Swinney stole Tom Allen from Penn State. I don't think any of us expected that. And let's not forget about Garrett Riley. If you don't know who Garrett Riley is, that last name should ring a bell to you. Yes, this is the brother of Lincoln Riley, and he was the offensive coordinator at TCU when they went to national championship a few years ago, and he is due for a head coaching job sooner rather than later. And this should be his year where he ends up proving why he deserves one. So everything that Clemson has from a talent standpoint, a coaching standpoint, gives them the edge in this game. And I'm going to take them to get the victory. 27-24 is my final score in this game. Now, even with LSU losing this game, the season is far from over. You got a lot of ball to play, but this is definitely a game that you don't want to lose if you're Brian Kelly, because then the noise gets a lot louder as far as the cause for your job. But Clemson, if they win this game, it gives them a little bit more room for error if they lose a game or two, to where they can still get into the playoffs as a 2-loss team. Because even if LSU disappoints, they should still be a top 25 team, which is a resume builder for Clemson. So if Clemson can pull this one off, they can afford 1 or 2 losses. But if they lose this game, then they pretty much have to win out and win this conference. But if they get a win, then winning the ACC isn't as important for Clemson, because they will still be able to look back at this win and say, hey, we beat a top 25 team week 1. That should help us boost our resume to where we can still get an at-large bid. But LSU, with how tough their schedule is, man, you got to win this game a lot more than what Clemson does. And I don't think you're going to be able to pull it out. Brian Kelly just is not good in these week 1 games. I don't know what it is. You couldn't beat FSU. You couldn't beat USC. And traveling to the other Death Valley is a really tough place to get a win, especially this early in the season when you have so many moving parts on that offensive line. I like the Tigers, or the Orange Tigers, to win.